Division of Engineering and Construction, which is in the Mayor's Office of Capital Projects. We're happy to welcome you here today for the Superior Avenue Midway Cycle Track meeting to discuss access and circulation needs. Design of the project will commence in 2023 with construction slated for 2025. This very unique project has been a long time coming, and we are confident that it will be a great asset for the residents of the city of Cleveland. Without further delay, I'd like to introduce the following individuals who will be presenting today. Annie Pease, the project coordinator, Kim Scott from City Planning, and Ron Mason, the project manager. With that, no further delays, and again, thank you for attending today's meeting. Take it away, Annie.
Thanks, Rick. Again, welcome to everyone who has joined us today. I'm going to walk through a couple of housekeeping points before turning it over to Kim and to Ron to present more background on the project and context for the Superior Midway design. Again, my name is Annie Pease. I'm a project coordinator in the Office of Capital Projects. Today's meeting is a pre-design meeting for the Superior Midway project. Throughout the meeting today, we'll provide more background on the planning that's led up to where we are today. We'll provide more context on the project area, where it's located, and our preliminary concept. We are seeking your input as business stakeholders along the Superior Corridor on access and circulation needs. So we'd like to offer an opportunity for your questions, and we will also follow up today's meeting with a survey link. Before we continue with the presentation, I would like to let everyone know that we are recording today's meeting so that we can reference it later for notes and to ensure we're collecting your feedback. I've asked everyone in attendance to please drop your email addresses into the chat box. You can find the chat icon located at the bottom of your screen. If anyone has a hard time, please feel free to come off mute and ask a clarifying question there. We will be monitoring the chat box throughout today's meeting. So if folks have questions, please feel free to drop your questions into the chat. We welcome clarifying questions throughout the presentation. And then we will have time built into the meeting specifically for broader questions and to hear your impressions on what we've presented today. I would like to thank our colleagues at Midtown Cleveland Community Development Corporation and St. Clair Superior Community Development Corporation for joining us today. I would like to ask whether there are translation needs on the call today. Okay. Hearing none, we'll proceed accordingly. I would like to let everyone know that also at the bottom of your WebEx screen, there's a small icon at the bottom to the left with CC, the letter CC on it. You should have the ability to turn on closed captioning. If the visual depiction of the words is useful to you, we encourage you to turn on the closed captioning. It's a setting that each individual would have to turn on for themselves at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so with that, again, feel free to use the chat for clarifying questions throughout the presentation. After we provide background on the project and provide more context on the project itself, we will have time built into the meeting for more of a discussion-based question and answer. And at this point, I will turn it over to Kim Scott with City Planning Commission for project background.
Thanks, Annie. So as you might imagine, if you don't already know about the Midway, that it is a transportation project, and one of the things that was important to understand was our transportation system and how things evolved over time. So from 1984 to 1884 through 1901, the transportation system was electrified and consolidated. The first commercial electric railway in the United States ran in Cleveland. And as trolleys gained popularity in the late 1800s, Cleveland had at least 425 miles of streetcar lines. The population of Cleveland between 1930 and 1950 rose to nearly 1 million residents. Of course, as the advent of private automobiles became more popular, that was part of what caused a decline in the streetcar ridership. And so then the transit authority at that time transitioned to buses. The image that you see here is along Superior Avenue at East 49th Street, and you can see the significant width of that street, and that was in 1953. The previous streetcar line was used as a catalyst for the idea of the Superior Midway. And this is an idea that focuses on creating a separated, protected cycle track, somewhat mimicking the streetcar lines, how it used to run in the middle of the street. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Ron.
Thank you, Kim. As Rick Switowski noted, I'm the project engineer for the project. I'd like to go a little bit into the work that was done prior to this point with determining the location for a number of different streets, but ultimately why Superior became the one that we chose to do this pilot project. Please note that right now we are in pre-design. We haven't begun the detailed design of this project yet. We've spent the past 5 years identifying different streets that were wide enough to accommodate a median that would have within it a protected cycle track. A protected cycle track is a two-way bicycle path that has curb to protect the cyclist from car drivers adjacent to the curb itself. And after some time, it came down to two streets. One was St. Clair and the other was Superior, and Superior won out because it was wider, quite frankly. And it's a more consistent width all the way from where we are planning on putting in the cycle track from East Roadway to East 55th. So the initial identification of the different routes that we want to use came in December 2017. There were initial starts and stops with funding, but we now have gotten that pretty much out of the way. And we are looking to hire a design engineer next year to do the detailed design for the cycle track. As Kim said, it's located within the middle of the street where the trolley tracks used to be at. And if we go to the next slide, it'll show a little bit of a presentation of how this will look. Now, in the middle of the track, you notice we've got two bicyclists. That's where the track is going to be, 10-foot wide with two 8-foot buffers, landscape buffers. And then there will be a curb separating this median within the center of the street from the roadway on either side. Next slide, please. The location will be from downtown Cleveland, East Roadway, all the way up to East 55th. The meeting today was to meet with the owners from East 26th to East 55th in the Midway area, the Midtown area, I'm sorry, to discuss access needs for your businesses, both pedestrian and vehicular, because this information is essential to provide to the design engineers so we understand what type of vehicles and how big the vehicles are coming into your businesses, and if you have any special pedestrian needs, and basically any kind of information that would be useful to helping us in the design. A lot of times we're not even quite aware of what will become useful until we get out and get the information from the public. This is being done during the pre-design because of the unique nature of this project, as Rick said. It's the only one that's been built in a state like this, and it'll effectively double the number of protected cycle tracks in the state. Next slide, please. The timeline so far has been from 2016 to 2017 for the concept, basically checking out which streets we want to look at. And then from 2018 to 2020, going into the feasibility and developing the cost. We are now at 2022 and 2023 with the preliminary design, preliminary, not settled, not finished, not detailed. And this is why we're coming to you today to get input on the preliminary design and to get information, again, on your needs within this area. Obviously, the Midtown is a growing and thriving area, an important part of the city of Cleveland, and we do not wish to impose any type of inconveniences upon the neighborhood. This is meant to accentuate the value of the neighborhood, and we consider it a very valuable project to the city of Cleveland and to Midtown. Next slide, please. As we said, your feedback is very valuable to us. Information is gold at this point. Information on your customer access to your businesses, your delivery needs, if they're coming off of Superior or a side street, what type of vehicles are coming in for deliveries, what type of vehicles are being used by your customers. Do they mostly walk? Do they use bikes? Do they use cars? And any special pedestrian needs. Do you have, for instance, there's a school nearby. What time would the students be dropped off and picked up? So with that, I think that pretty much does the initial presentation, and we'd like to get your feedback on the project. Oh, I'm sorry. I almost forgot. I wanted to show you before we went into that the exact areas where we're going to be putting in the median on the next slide. I got ahead of myself. Occurred to me, you haven't quite seen how this thing is all laid out. All right. If you look at the slide, we're starting from the I-90 exit ramp, and we're going past East 30th, proceeding east. East 31st is shown here, and the area that you see in green, that is the location of the median, which will have the cycle track. As you can see, there are certain intersections that are going to be effectively cut off. East 31st, I believe, is one way. East 32nd, I'm not sure of. Next slide, please. We're removing a signal East 33rd, and that intersection will also be cut off, and East 34th. There's a transition from East 34th to East 36th where we have a signal we're going to be redesigning, and then it transitions back to the Midway cycle track from East 36th to the railroad bridge that you see off to the right. Next slide, please. Continuing from the railroad bridge, we go to East 40th, where it again transitions to a signal we're going to be reworking. I should note the signals are being reworked not only for the cycle track within the median, but also for the pedestrians. The cycle track, if I may, it's not just for bicyclists. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that when you put in a facility like this, it works as a traffic calming device. And that's part of the reason why this is also going in. We have a transition from 40th back to the cycle track going past 41st. Again, that intersection is being basically cut off. Remove the signal on East 43rd. It will no longer be needed. Next slide, please. However, pedestrian access is still very important to us, and there's too much of a distance from 42nd to 49th. So we're going to be putting in what they call RRFBs, rectangular rapid flashing beacons, and a crosswalk. Basically, if you need to cross the street, you touch a button on one of these on either side of the street, and it flashes, and that allows you to proceed across to the other side of the street. We'll be putting in another one near East 51st as well, and reworking the signal at East 49th to where it transitions back into the bicycle median. Next slide, please. And here we're coming to the end of the project. The signal will be removed in East 52nd and proceeding forward, going past East 53rd to a transition to East 55th. The section that you see to the east of East 55th is being reworked to address a long-standing issue with the center lines of the road. The centers of the road don't quite match up, so we're going to be addressing that to help improve vehicular safety. Now, the median itself is a total of 26 feet wide, 10-foot wide path, 2 8-foot buffers, 26 feet wide. there is 25 feet from the edge of that median to the curb on either side. That's something to keep in mind when you're thinking about the delivery trucks that you get and how much access room that you need. One of the things that we are looking at doing is, again, looking at the preliminary design in terms of your access needs and also in terms of anything else we may not know of at this point. That's why this pre-design meeting is so important. I can't stress it enough. We've done a 9-question survey at the end of this that we hope everyone will fill out and get back to us so we can use that information to provide it to the design engineer to make revisions to the design as we need to make it more of a benefit to the community and also to help gain community support. Next slide, please. All right. Well, for now, I'll turn this over to Annie, and then I think we'll get started on the questions.
Thank you, Ron. So we have shared some background information, Kim Scott, on Cleveland's transportation system and the unique position we are in as a city to have a street network formerly built out for a streetcar system where streetcars ran down the middle of the road, horses initially, pedestrians, ultimately cars started using other parts of the road. But the Midway cycle track planning process identified which streets throughout the city would be eligible for this Midway cycle track design. And Superior is the pilot location. So in summary, we've shared the history on kind of where the study came about. In looking at this concept, we've shared how Superior was identified as the pilot corridor for this treatment. There have been a number of planning meetings and sessions leading up to this point. So those on today's call, we would not assume anyone has extensive history on this project or necessarily participated in that planning. But given that we're starting to move forward with more detailed design for the project starting at the beginning of next year, it's very important to us that we're re-engaging with folks along the corridor. And we'd love to hear any comments, thoughts, or reactions to the concept. But again, given that we wouldn't anticipate those on today's call necessarily participated in previous planning studies, we welcome general questions as well on the concept.
Hey, we had a couple questions today regarding the number of lanes that would still be on the street, and it looks like from the design that there's still going to be 2 lanes. Is that correct?
Yes, this is Ron Mason. That is correct. And parking will not be affected. One of the benefits of having a cycle track in the middle of the street is you don't have to revise the parking with regards to a new bike lane. The bike lane's in the middle of the roadway. So.
Thanks for that clarification.
That's good. So a big difference with how Superior operates today and how it would operate with the Midway configuration is that on side streets like East 47th or East 45th, where today some of these streets are one way. So just as some of these side streets approach, you'd be able to turn left or right with the cycle track configuration in the middle, and given the landscaped buffer in between the cycle track and those vehicular lanes, there would be more limited turns left or right. You'd still have access, of course, to all the side streets, but there would be a difference in turning movements. And a reason that we'd like your feedback specifically with more details on your operations is to better understand delivery needs, customer patterns, any knowledge you have about where most of your traffic is coming from would be very useful as we enter the more detailed design phase. And then additionally, any thoughts you have on pedestrian access and pedestrian safety as well are very relevant. So think access, broad access, no matter how people are arriving. Okay. One thing that would be helpful to our team is if those in attendance, I know we have several representatives from our CDC partners on the call, but for others on the call, if you wouldn't mind unmuting briefly and telling us who you represent or which business you're with, that would be really helpful to us. I could go down the list here. The first name on my list is Chris Watkins. All right, let's try, Karis, could you go next?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey everyone, my name is Karis. I'm from Midtown Cleveland.
Thanks, Karis. Maeve Kozak?
Hi, I'm Maeve Kozak. I work at St. Clair Superior Development Corporation.
Thanks, Maeve. Michelle Davis?
Oh, good afternoon, everyone. Michelle Davis, also with St. Clair Superior Development Corporation.
Thank you. We have Mook Robinson.
Hi, Mook Robinson, owner of Diamond Club Barbershop, 52nd.
Mook, could you repeat that one more time? I didn't catch the name.
Annie, if it's helpful, we met Mook earlier. He's with the Diamond Cut Barber Shop on Superior.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate that. Mr. Robinson, thank you for joining us. Maeve, thank you for the clarification. Naomi?
Hey, I'm Naomi Jia from Asia Town team, Midtown Cleveland.
Thank you, Naomi, for joining us. And I see Mr. Watkins has replied in the chat. Sorry that we are not able to hear you, but he's with the National Telephone Supply, 5100 Superior Ave. Great, that gives us a good sense of who's participating today. Oh, we have another person on here, and I apologize for skipping. Anna Lee.
I'm going to speak on behalf of Anna because for some reason she couldn't hear.
Okay.
Yeah, from the presentation. She is the owner of Anna Beauty Center, one of the major member of Asia Town. And I think she was kind of concerned about like most of her clients parking right in front of her store, so on Superior Avenue. She was concerned if the construction would cause difficulty for her clients to park or find a place to park.
Great. Naomi, could you repeat the name of the business?
Anna Beauty Center is located at 3101 Superior Avenue East.
Excellent.
Right. She has very limited parking at the back of her store. So most of the clients, they park right in front of the store. So it's on the Superior Avenue.
Excellent. Great. We have that address written down. And
Thank you.
thank you, Anna, for joining us. I see that Councilman McCormick has joined us as well. Councilman, thank you for joining. And Mr. Watkins, I sent a request to unmute. I don't know if that could help. That may assist with your
Yes.
participation.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, that's great. So we, believe it or not, in that early photo in the present, thank you for putting this together. We have been here even before that photo was taken. We're a 3-story brick building, and I couldn't believe you saw the streetcar, and then there was our building back at the time of the picture. We've been here since the early 20s. So we are a light industrial manufacturer, and conceptually, I think this is a great idea. We have a number of our employees who bike to work, and I know this will be a great benefit to them. The question, we have really a logistics question because we have 48-foot tractor trailers that deliver product throughout the week. And so given the width of the proposed, I guess, right-of-ways, we're not sure if that's going to allow for these 48-footers to back up easily to our loading dock. So that's really I guess that's going to be one of our main concerns. It will probably inconvenience some of the people, some of our employees who have to park. They're going to have to probably reroute using some of the cross streets. I guess my experience has been with what has happened along Euclid Avenue when when one moves from where we are to the clinic, and you have to just work your way through. Once you get used to it, it's not so bad. So but really for us, it's going to be a logistics question of, can you provide, a stamped concrete area across, or at least for some distance along where the trucks back into our loading dock.
Sir, could I have your address again?
You bet. 5100 Superior Avenue.
I've been keeping a list of businesses on Superior, one of the ones that I was looking to talk to.
Well, we appreciate that we're paying attention. We got the flyer, so here we are today, and we appreciate the opportunity to provide input. So thank you for that.
Will you be taking the survey, I hope?
If I receive the survey, I'll be sure to take the survey. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Thank
I'm
you.
Googling even as we go. Okay, I see your business now.
Mr. Watkins, we appreciate that feedback, and the survey is where we will need to collect that level of detail. And we will follow up with you on those concerns.
Thank you.
I have a really quick question, Mr. Robinson. I sent you a chat message. If you wouldn't mind, if you're able to type in your email address so that we can stay in touch. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to drop the survey link that we've been talking about into the chat box. We will also send the same survey link to all of today's participants by email. So you'll have it there too. We do want to make sure you're provided an opportunity to ask our team any questions about the project before we ask you to fill out this survey so you have more context. And so we welcome those questions.
I do have a question. So street parking will be essentially eliminated. Is that what I'm understanding? No. Okay.
In fact, that is a major benefit to having the cycle track within the middle of the median. There's going to be better striping to designate where the parking is right now because we really don't have that at the moment. But in terms of the locations, they're going to remain unchanged.
So to be clear, you're going to have, I mean, could you maybe move back to one of the conceptual cross sections of Superior? If someone has the ability to do that.
We'll pull it back up.
I'm just trying to visualize. So there will be street parking, and so how many lanes of traffic will there be when there's street parking present in each direction?
Well, we're still going to have 2 lanes. The width of the lanes and the width of the parking is something that we'll be figuring out during detailed design. So, but that's the intent. The intent is not to change the parking on Superior.
And the intent is so there will be 2 lanes of traffic in each direction in addition to street parking.
Right.
It does depend on which part of the corridor we're on. The street width changes at different times. Ron, if you want to talk about that a little bit, just as we go through the design, we'll have more detail and more specifics.
Right. The intent is to keep the parking unchanged, basically mark out the parking better than it is right now with striping. And the other thing is to maintain 2 lanes going in, east and west. Now, how that exactly, the width of the lanes and everything else is something we have to figure out during detailed design. What you're seeing right now is a very preliminary concept. It basically just shows where the median is at, and I don't even think it's really shown the scale, quite frankly. It's just a concept to show this is where the bicycle median cycle track will be, and where we have the transitions, the signals we're taking out, things like that. There's some crosswalks that are shown there, but they're far from being finished. So, but that is the intent, yes.
And again, could you go to the slide which shows the cross section? That's
sure.
Plan. Yeah. There we are. So I saw this and I said to myself, no street parking.
Oh, well, yeah. Again, this is an initial concept.
I appreciate that as a preliminary design drawing, but there's a fairly significant difference between what's depicted there and adding an additional lane for the street parking. So again,
that's true.
Okay, understood.
That's true.
Yeah, Mr. Watkins, we're using this graphic to help articulate really what the concept of a midway is.
Sure.
And depending on the width of the corridor and some of the current on-street parking, this wouldn't represent what the whole corridor would look like, but it gives you a sense of where the cycle track is located and generally how the street works given it's quite different than how the street works today.
Sure, it is clear that I completely agree. It does a great job depicting a protected corridor for bicycles. You know, as a property owner here, we're thinking about the other potential effects. You know, for instance, we have people who do park on street. Our mail delivery is at the moment, you know, they park on street to deliver the mail, et cetera. So, understood.
And that is exactly why we're having the meetings, so we can get that kind of input from property owners and businesses such as yourself. So we're more than happy to have you on the call, believe me.
Other questions, comments, reactions?
I have a question. Will sidewalks be included in the redesign as well, or is this just curb to curb? And then I guess also for side streets, will there be any consideration for, you know, especially with the cycle track and the changing of where crossings are? I just imagine that there might be a need to reconfigure some of the side streets as well.
Well, currently, as far as the resurfacing work goes, we're going to be extending that into each of the side streets. We have to do that so they match up to the new profile of the street correctly. The new side, you know, basically the gutter profile needs to match up so you don't have ponding and things like that. Sidewalk is going to be replaced where we need to replace it. Right now, we are not entirely certain how much we're going to be replacing. That's something, again, we'll have to look at during detailed design. As far as the street transitions from the cycle track, that's also something we have to try and figure out. I know that a number of streets are one-way. I don't think we're going to be changing the designation of the one-way streets or anything like that. We're going to be trying to figure out how to make a safe transition, not just for the cyclist making a left onto an adjacent street, but also for pedestrians who are crossing the street. I'd like to note that this type of facility is very, very new, and we're working it out as we go. We have an excellent engineering team that's done some brilliant work for facilities out in the Pacific Northwest. So, but the point is that we're going to make sure that it's safe for both the cyclist and the pedestrian at these intersections, as well as vehicular traffic making a turn. So.
I have a question as far as what that barrier is going to look like. And this might be something for the detailed design process, but in a lot of these pictures, it looks like it's trees, which is great. But I wasn't sure if you guys knew if you were leaning towards trees or concrete barriers or what that looked like.
Well, basically, it looks like a normal boulevard concrete median. I guess if you've ever been down Clifton, it's a little bit like that. Trees are planned. Where exactly we're putting the trees is something we're not sure of just yet. There's going to be landscaping at certain intersections. There's going to be some concrete design work at certain intersections. But basically, the overall look of it will look like a concrete median with landscaping in the middle of the street. So, and then you'll see cyclists going up and down one way or the other. But I guess maybe actually, Annie, now that I think about it, slide 8 shows a pretty good representation of how it looks. I think that's the one. There it is. Can you see the top photo?
Yep, I just wanted to ask about the trees because I like the way that looks, and I didn't know if you guys were going as extensive as far as landscaping goes as putting in all those trees, or if it was mostly going to be just planters or just concrete. But thank you for that clarification.
No problem. Part of putting in the trees also is making a determination of if you put in a tree, is it going to hamper visibility for people who are using Superior? That's another detailed design question we have to figure out. So.
What's your plan for snow removal of the bike lane?
We are working with the city's streets division to get that settled, also with Downtown Cleveland Alliance for the downtown section. So the vehicles that we need to use and the timing for this is also, again, something we have to figure out. It's not as wide as some of the sidewalks downtown, so I don't think you can really take a truck up on it. But at the same time, you have to be able to allow the access to where you don't accidentally have a vehicle coming onto the Midway. So it sounds like I'm repeating that question a lot, that we need to figure out during detailed design, but it's true. So we're asking ourselves these questions even as we go now before we even get to design. So.
Hey there, Annie. Can you hear me?
Hi, yes, we can. Hi, Councilman.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm in a coffee shop, so forgive me if it's a little noisy. No, I just wanted to just very briefly thank everybody for being on the call today and really good questions and comments today. So really appreciate that. And just wanted to say that I am so excited about this project. We know that Superior is a massive roadway. Almost feels like a highway in the middle of our city, which disconnects both sides of the street. And I just, this along with the Lorraine Avenue cycle track will connect, zone recreation all the way to East 55th with high quality protected, bike infrastructure. So again, big shout out to the city team and everyone that has been a part of this. Cleveland is behind many other peer cities on this type of infrastructure. So really excited to see this move forward. And again, really appreciate the team taking the time to listen to the neighborhood and neighborhoods and stakeholders and business owners. It's really productive conversation. So thank you all so much, and just really excited about this project coming forward.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay. Other questions? Looking back, going forward. We really appreciate your participation in today's meeting. As another announcement by way of order, we're repeating the same content of the meeting we're holding right now again today at 6:30 to connect with businesses that may have a busier daytime and maybe more available in the evening. So the flyer you received with information about today's meeting, I just want it to be clear that the content of the meeting that we held today, right now at 2:30, we're repeating the same content at 6:30 with the goal of reaching businesses that may have different operational hours. So please be aware of that. Again, I've dropped a survey link into the chat box, and we will also send the same survey link out by email. If you have neighboring businesses you may feel would benefit from the context that we've presented today, please reach out and make sure we can connect with them. We'd like to get this survey link into the hands of as many interested stakeholders along the corridor as possible. And it is really focused on circulation and access needs as we're thinking about the approaching streets and reconfiguration to the right of way here. So I will stop there. We've completed the content of today's presentation. I'll leave just another opportunity if folks have questions. We really appreciate your time and your participation today. I see we have a question from Michelle. Michelle, go ahead.
Oh, hi everyone. I was just curious, how is the city doing the design, or are you guys hiring somebody to do the design, or what does that process look like for the future?
Go ahead, Ron.
Well, the city is doing the design, but we're working in conjunction with ODOT to have the design finalized because they're the ones that are going to do the construction. So, yes, we're doing the design, but ODOT has a pretty big hand in it. So.
Does that answer your question, Michelle?
Yes, thank you, Annie and Ron.
And I did notice there are a couple of call-in users. I don't know if those are any different than, I know Ron has one line, but if there are call-in users that are not logged into the video presentation, are you able to identify yourself? Just want to make sure that we're capturing everyone that is present today.
I know one of our call-in users was Mr. Watkins. Okay. Great. Well, we'll conclude there. We thank you all again for your participation today. Please keep your eye out for an email from our team with the survey link to our partners at Midtown and St. Clair Superior. Thank you so much for your partnership, and we look forward to continuing to get the word out about the project and advance towards design with your input. All right.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.